I stepped through the front door with a bottle of red in one hand and a bouquet of fresh lilies in the other, figured I'd surprise her for once. I was smiling, thinking how her face would light up. I'd even grabbed her favorite wine, the cheap kind with the twist-off cap she always pretended was too sweet but finished in one sitting. But then I saw the table. 2 plates, 2 glasses, the good silverware, a roast in the oven, timer blinking, and candles, real ones, not the fake battery ones we used with our daughter around. Something was wrong. I just didn't know how wrong yet. Then I noticed it. No toys on the rug. No backpack on the hook by the stairs. The house felt staged. Like a showroom, not a home. "Where's Emma?" I asked. She turned from the hallway like she'd seen a ghost. "You're home." "Yeah. Got off early. Wanted to surprise you." She blinked once, then pulled a smile that didn't quite fit her face. "I sent Emma to my parents. Thought they could use a night with her." I said, walking into the kitchen and setting the bottle on the counter. "And this whole setup? Just felt like making a roast for yourself." No answer. She was wearing a black dress I hadn't seen in years. Heels. Lipstick. Her nails done in that deep red she used to save for anniversaries. She fumbled for words. I have a friend coming over. From work. We're doing some planning marketing stuff. You know how it is." "Sure," I said, looking her dead in the eyes. "Work stuff. Looks real professional." Her mouth opened. Closed. Nothing came out. I didn't say another word. Just walked past her, up the stairs, grabbed my overnight bag, still half-packed from my last run of back-to-back shifts, and walked right back out. That ride across town, I barely blinked. Just kept gripping the wheel like it might run off the road if I let go. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't crying. I was thinking. Hard. I ended up parked behind the gas station on 5th. It was one of those places that still had a pay phone and a soda machine that ate your quarters. I sat there, staring at the steering wheel, trying to make it all fit. The dress. The candles. The dinner for 2. I thought it was just a guy from work. One mistake. One mess she got tangled in. But later that night, after she texted me 3 times asking where I was and I didn't answer, I checked her location. Yeah, I had access to it. She just never bothered to turn it off. She wasn't at home. She wasn't at her parents'. She was downtown, at a place I didn't recognize. And she wasn't alone. The next morning, when I came back to the house to grab some things, the smell of that roast still hung in the air like a bad joke. She acted like everything was fine. Told me she hoped I got some rest. Said Emma missed me. I nodded. Smiled even. I was calm. Too calm. But inside, something was breaking off in pieces. Because now I knew this wasn't just a slip-up. This wasn't just a guy from work and a night she planned to erase. I didn't sleep much after that night. My body lay flat on my brother's old pull-out couch, but my mind kept pacing. That roast. The candles. The half-lie about a work friend. It all played back like a broken record. Something in me knew there was more she wasn't saying, more I wasn't supposed to see. I went home the next day around lunch. Acted like I just needed a change of clothes. She looked surprised, almost nervous, like I might have caught her mid-whisper. But she smiled, offered coffee, acted like we'd just had a little tiff the night before and not a slow earthquake ripping up the foundation of our marriage. I played along. I was polite. Kissed our daughter on the forehead and told her I'd be back later. Told my wife I had another long shift coming up. She nodded, hugged me, and didn't ask where I'd been. That told me everything. The first crack came 2 days later. I was off that afternoon. Told her I picked up an overtime shift to cover someone sick. Instead, I parked across the street from our house in a borrowed car. Sat low. Waited. At 7:11 p.m., a blue SUV pulled into our driveway. New. Tinted windows. Guy stepped out wearing a button-up and jeans too tight for a dad. He was tall, athletic-looking. Walked like someone who thought too highly of himself. Like someone who'd been here before. She greeted him at the door. Hugged him. Kissed his cheek. That was enough for me. I didn't storm in. I didn't grab a bat. I wrote the plate down. Waited till the lights dimmed inside. Then I drove away with my jaw tight and my fists tighter. This wasn't some friend from work. This was personal. Familiar. Rehearsed. So the next day, I made a call. I knew a guy. Steve. Used to run surveillance for insurance fraud, workers' comp cases, mostly. Now he did private work. I met him once at a union cookout. Quiet guy, sharp as a tack. Steve, I said, after he picked up. I need someone followed. You do that kind of thing? Depends, he replied. Wife. Yeah. Suspect something? No. I know something. I just need it proven. He didn't ask for details. Just told me to email her name, vehicle info, and photo. Said he'd get started that night. And he did. Within 3 days, I had my first batch of photos. Her car parked behind a restaurant on Riverfront. Her and that same guy sharing wine, holding hands, smiling like teenagers. He even kissed her hand across the table like he was auditioning for a movie role. Steve was professional, dates, times, location logs, even a few short videos. It was clear, this wasn't new. This had rhythm, comfort, history. But it wasn't the only thing. On day 6, Steve called me. You sure it's just the one guy? I blinked. What do you mean? I tailed her to an apartment complex this morning. Different guy, different car. She was inside for 2 hours. They left together, stopped for coffee. She kissed him too on the mouth, not the cheek. My stomach sank. Same day. Yep. You want me to keep going? Yeah, I said, barely above a whisper. Don't stop. It wasn't just betrayal, it was a pattern. A lifestyle. Something she was good at, practiced in. Every smile she gave me after work, every time she said, just tired, every birthday she seemed distracted, it all made sense now. There were 2 of them. 2 men. Maybe more. And here I was, working long shifts, saving for a family vacation she said we couldn't afford, while she was out tasting life like it was a buffet. But I didn't confront her. Not yet. I needed more. This wasn't going to be some angry outburst in the kitchen. No screaming match in front of our daughter. No, who is he nonsense. She wanted to live a double life? Fine. But I was going to be the one who ended it on my terms. And when I did, she wouldn't see it coming. Not even close. You ever notice how the truth doesn't just hit you once? It comes in layers, like peeling an onion with a razor. Each layer cuts a little deeper. The first photos stung. The second set? That was the twist. I started noticing things around the house. Not big stuff. Not the kind you'd catch if you weren't looking, but I was. I was looking real close now. Her perfume changed. Used to be this light, floral thing I picked out on her birthday 5 years ago. Suddenly, it was muskier, heavier, like something a 20-year-old might wear on a club night. And the way she smiled at her phone, that little smirk? I used to think it was cute. Now it made me sick. She changed passwords too. I noticed that quick. Our shared laptop, her tablet, even the Wi-Fi name went from Home Sweet Home to Valhalla_77. Real subtle. But I didn't ask questions. Didn't poke the bear. Just kept playing the role of the tired, clueless husband working back-to-backs and barely awake for dinner. She had no idea I already had a man on her tail. 2. Actually, Steve brought in a second set of eyes after the apartment visit. By week 2, I had a folder thick enough to crush a mouse. I kept everything. Every photo, every report, timestamped and dated. One guy was mid-30s, always in business casual, slick car, met her during the day. The other was younger, built like a linebacker, rolled up in gym gear and picked her up after dark. They didn't know about each other, or maybe they did. Honestly, I didn't care. The only thing I knew was I wasn't going to be husband number 3 in her rotation. Steve stopped by one night, dropped off a flash drive. Everything you asked for, he said, voice low. You sure you want to keep going? I nodded. I'm just getting started. Because now the plan was forming. I wasn't going to just catch her. I was going to bury her lies. The kind of reveal that left no wiggle room, no sweet talking her way out. No, it wasn't what it looked like. So I picked a date. Emma's birthday was too cruel. Thanksgiving too soon. But Christmas Eve? That's when her whole family came to our house, parents, siblings, cousins, the works. Everyone packed around our little living room, pretending the world was still right and no one was cheating behind anyone's back. That's when it would happen. A flash drive in the TV. A short little home movie. Evidence lined up like dominoes. But until then, I played my part. I smiled. I worked. I came home on time. I listened to her stories about client calls and deadlines while she didn't even blink. One night, she leaned in while I was doing dishes. You've been really sweet lately, she said. I almost laughed. Just trying to be a better man. She kissed my cheek. Like she had any right. Later that week, Steve called again. She took the younger one to your daughter's daycare. I stopped breathing. She introduced him as a friend. Picked him up together. Didn't stay long, but your girl hugged him goodbye. That right there? That was the match. It wasn't about the cheating anymore. It wasn't just betrayal. Now it was personal. She was bringing these men into our daughter's life. mixing her games with Emma's world. That crossed a line I didn't even know I had until it got lit on fire. That night, I sat in my truck, gripping the steering wheel with both hands. "You want to play house?" I muttered. "Fine, but I'm about to flip the whole damn table." I started transferring all the files onto a second drive. Created backups, labeled folders, even printed screenshots. One set went into a fireproof box in the garage. Another, into a manila envelope marked "in case of emergency." And a third? That one was staying with me. Because when Christmas came, so would the reckoning. And every single one of her family members was going to watch it unfold. You ever sit in a room full of liars and feel like you're the only one who knows the truth? That's what it felt like every time I walked through the door now. Except the liars weren't strangers. They were the people I'd once built my world around. Every morning, she kissed me goodbye with those same lips that kissed 2 other men the day before. Every night, she laid in our bed and scrolled her phone like I wasn't 6 feet away, like I was invisible. But I wasn't sleeping much anymore. I was waiting, watching, planning. Christmas Eve was 2 weeks out. I circled it on the calendar like it was game day. Not because I liked the holiday. I'd grown to hate the sight of blinking lights and cinnamon candles, but because I knew that's when everyone would be under one roof. Her parents, her siblings, mine, the cousins, the kid, all packed into our house with eggnog and matching pajamas. The perfect setting for a little film premiere. Meanwhile, I kept playing the part, picked up the gifts, helped wrap the ones from Santa, hung lights on the porch like I hadn't seen her hands on another man's back in a restaurant booth just 3 nights ago. I even took her shopping one afternoon. Let her pick out a dress, blue velvet, with a slit up the side. "It'll be perfect for the party," she said, beaming at her reflection in the dressing room mirror. I nodded. "You'll look stunning." And she would. Stunning when the screen flickered on and the room went dead quiet. Stunning when her lies peeled off her like dead skin. Stunning when her family saw the real woman beneath that velvet. That week, I added a second lock to the garage. Moved the snowblower to cover the fireproof box. Set the flash drive in a drawer with duct tape over it, labeled "Christmas Light Show" in big bold letters. I also sat down with a lawyer. Quiet office, out of town, by appointment only. I told him everything. He leaned back in his chair. "You got proof?" "Enough to wallpaper the house," I said. He gave me a nod. "You want custody?" "Full. She can have weekends after supervised review. No overnights." "Think the court will agree?" She introduced 2 men to my daughter within a month. One picked her up from school. I've got pictures, timestamps, videos. If they don't agree, I'll plaster it across every church bulletin in the county. He grinned at that. "Then let's get started." I didn't want revenge for me. Not anymore. It was for Emma. For every night I worked late so her mom could have me time, and every birthday I covered while she said she was stuck in traffic. For every bedtime story I read while her mother was out playing house with strangers. The anger wasn't hot anymore. It was cold. Focused. Like steel pulled from a freezer. Then came the slip-up. It was a Thursday. She was supposed to be at work late. Some big end-of-year meeting. But I was heading home early, actually early, and something told me to check her location again. She wasn't at the office. She was across town. At the same apartment as before. This time, the younger guy. So I waited. Parked down the street. Watched the door. 35 minutes later, they came out laughing. His hand on her waist, her head tilted back like she was in some perfume ad. She kissed him full on the mouth and said something I couldn't hear. Then she said it again. Louder. "I love you." It hit me like a punch to the gut. Not because she said it, but because she meant it. She never said that to me anymore. Not in months. And when she did, it was like a routine. Like saying "bless you" after a sneeze. But with him, she said it like it mattered. That sealed it. This wasn't a mistake. Wasn't a fling. Wasn't boredom or loneliness or a bad patch in our marriage. This was a choice. She chose this life. Chose them. Chose lies over loyalty. Chose "I love you" for someone who hadn't even stuck around long enough to know her daughter's middle name. Fine. She made her choice. Christmas Eve, she'd live with it. Because I'd already written my speech. I'd rehearsed it a dozen times in the mirror. Practiced the timing. Knew when to press play. When to pause. When to pass the folder of printed screenshots to her father, who, by the way, always used to tell me I was too boring for his daughter. Well, he was about to learn boring men don't explode. We detonate. And the blast was coming. "Merry Christmas, sweetheart." The week leading up to Christmas was the quietest our house had been in months. And I don't mean peaceful. I mean quiet like the air before a tornado touches down. Still, charged, dangerous. She was glowing, humming carols, wrapping gifts with a smile. Even baked cookies with Emma, like we were living in a Hallmark card. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was nerves. Or maybe, just maybe, she was getting sloppy because she thought I'd swallowed the story. That I bought the lie. "Isn't it nice," she said one night, "to just be in a good place again?" I sipped my coffee and nodded. Yeah, it's all coming together. She didn't catch the double meaning. Why would she? She was too busy texting on her phone under the table. The screen would light up and her fingers would fly. I knew it wasn't work. I knew it wasn't family. I knew exactly who it was and which one it was. That's right. By now, I had a full picture. It wasn't just two guys rotating through her schedule. It was two roles. One for daytime, one for night. A businessman who whined her at lunch, told her she was brilliant. A gym rat who picked her up in his lifted truck after Emma was asleep and told her she was sexy. She was covering both sides of the fantasy. And in between, she had me packing Emma's lunch, mowing the lawn, folding the towels she'd used in someone else's bed. The pain was gone now. What was left felt more like focus. I was locked in. Steady. Every move I made was part of the setup. That's what this had become, a performance. And the curtain was about to rise. I texted Steve the day before Christmas Eve. Me, we're on for tomorrow. You got the drive ready. Steve, all set. Final cuts. Password protected. Plug and play. Me, make it clean. No sound. Just footage and timestamps. Steve, roger that. You good? Me, I'm better than I've been in years. I picked up my brother that evening. He was flying solo this year, so I invited him to stay with us. He didn't know the plan, not fully, but he knew something was brewing. He saw it in my eyes when I picked him up from the airport. You okay? He asked. Better than okay, I said. Just wait. The day came. Christmas Eve. The house smelled like cinnamon and slow-roasted ham. Fake snow clung to the windows. Emma danced around in her little elf pajamas, high on hot cocoa and holiday music. Family started rolling in around 3 p.m. Her parents first, then her sister and the twins. My side came next, brother, mom, a few cousins. The usual crowd. Everyone laughing. Everyone pretending. She looked radiant. That blue velvet dress we picked out, tied in the right places, long enough to look respectable. She kissed cheeks, passed out eggnog, played the perfect host. And I watched her from across the room, calm as a statue, nodding along with every fake word she spoke. Around 6, just before dinner, I stepped out for a second. Went to the garage, pulled the drive from the drawer, slipped it in my pocket. Back inside, I clinked my glass. Hey, I said, voice loud enough to cut through the chatter. Before we eat, I just want to share something with y'all. It's a little family video we put together this year. Something, honest. She looked confused. You didn't tell me about this. I smiled. I wanted it to be a surprise. I walked over to the TV, plugged in the flash drive. The screen flickered. She shifted in her seat. Her father leaned forward. My brother shot me a glance. Then it started. No music. No narration. Just raw footage. Scene 1. Her and the gym guy, walking hand in hand down a motel hallway. Scene 2. Her in the passenger seat of a BMW, kissing the other one, Mr. Business Casual, while the dashboard clock read 3:07 p.m. Scene 3. A slow zoom on the daycare parking lot, where she hugged one of them while our daughter stood by the car. Gasps. Real ones. Her mother stood up, one hand over her mouth. Her sister's face twisted like she just bit into glass. My mom looked away. My brother shook his head. And her? She didn't move. Just sat there. Face white. Eyes blinking too fast. Hands frozen in her lap. I didn't need to say anything. Not yet. But I did. I stepped forward, remote in hand, and paused the footage right as one of the guys grabbed her from behind in the grocery store parking lot. I know what this looks like, I said. And just to be clear, it is exactly what it looks like. Dead silence. For months, while I worked overtime and put Emma to bed, she was out with not one, but 2 different men. 2. I've got the full logs if anyone's interested. Still no sound. Just the quiet collapse of a woman who built her castle on lies. You brought them around my daughter, I added, voice low now. That's where you crossed the line. She opened her mouth, nothing came out. I walked over to her, looked her dead in the eyes. Merry Christmas, I said. Dinner's on you. And with that, I turned and walked out into the cold night. The show was over. The house behind me cracked open like a dropped ornament. And I wasn't going back in. I sat in my truck with the engine running, heat blasting against the frost creeping in through the windshield. My hands were steady. That surprised me. I figured I'd be shaking, maybe even second-guessing it all. But no, I felt clean. Like I'd finally scraped the filth off and tossed it where it belonged. Inside the house, I could still see shadows moving behind the curtains. No one had left yet. Her dad probably trying to put the pieces together. Her sister comforting her, or judging her. Hard to tell with that one. My mom? She'd be silent. Always said she hated drama. Tonight, she got a front row seat. The door opened. My brother came out, zipped his jacket, walked over slow. He didn't say anything at first. Just stood there, breathing fog into the night air. That was one hell of a move, he said finally. Too much. He shook his head. No. It was surgical. You didn't even raise your voice. That's the part that scared her, I said, letting the corner of my mouth lift. She's seen me mad. But this was different. He nodded. You want company tonight? I thought about it. Then shook my head. Nah. I think I need a quiet house for once. You're staying at the apartment? Yeah. Got the key already. It's a rental near the mill. Month to month. Just till things settle. He clapped my shoulder. Call if you need anything. I will. He turned to leave, but paused. Emma asked where you went. My throat tightened a bit at that. What did you tell her? That her dad's fixing some grown-up stuff. And that he loves her more than peanut butter. I smiled. Good answer. He walked off. I sat there a bit longer, then pulled away from the curb. Drove slow, watching the houses drift by, lights twinkling in windows, silhouettes of families laughing, eating, pretending things were perfect. They weren't. Not for anyone. But at least now, I wasn't pretending. The apartment was small. One bedroom, tiny kitchen, couch that doubled as a bed if needed. Walls thin enough to hear the guy next door argue with his dog. But it was clean. Empty. Mine. I dropped my bag by the door, pulled off my coat, and sat on the edge of the bed. The silence hit like a brick. Not a sad silence. Just stillness. The kind you forget exists when you've been living inside a lie. My phone buzzed. Her. We need to talk. I let it sit. Then another. Her. Please. Don't do this. Not like this. And finally, her. Emma is asking questions. She's scared. That one got to me. Not because of her, but because I knew it was true. I stared at the screen for a full minute. Then I replied. Me. I'll see Emma tomorrow. Alone. Nothing else. Next morning, I showed up at the house around 10. Knocked instead of using my key. She opened the door in sweats, no makeup, eyes puffy. She looked like a woman who'd lost something, not because it was taken, but because she threw it away. Emma ran into my arms before I could say a word. Wrapped herself around my leg like she used to when she was scared of thunder. Are you mad, Daddy? She asked, her voice small. I crouched down. No, baby. Not at you. Are you coming back home? I hugged her tighter. We'll talk about that soon, okay? But I promise, I'm still your dad. That never changes. She nodded, tears in her lashes. I stood up. Looked at my wife, ex-wife-to-be. We'll be at the park. I'll have her back by dinner. She just nodded. Didn't try to stop me. At the park, Emma talked about everything except what mattered. Her snowman project. Her missing mittens. A boy named Kyle who put gum in her hair. I listened. Pushed her on the swing. Laughed when she did. But inside, I was already building a new plan. Not just to leave, but to stay gone. Permanently. I'd seen enough of the truth to know there was no fixing this. No couples therapy. No shared custody like nothing happened. She poisoned the well, then tried to serve the water like it was wine. After the park, I dropped Emma off. Told her I'd see her again soon. She hugged me and whispered, I love you more than peanut butter. I almost lost it right there. But I held it together until I got back in the truck. Then I sat in the driveway for 5 full minutes, staring at the house I built, the woman I trusted, and the future I was about to erase. Because this wasn't just about betrayal anymore. This was about what kind of man I wanted my daughter to remember. And she wasn't going to remember a man who stayed quiet and took it. She was going to remember the man who stood up, walked out, and never looked back. It's funny how fast a home becomes just a house. A week ago, I knew every creak in the floorboards, every stuck window, every drawer that needed a hip check to close. Now, it was just drywall and memories I couldn't stand to breathe in. The wedding photo was gone from the living room. Guess she couldn't stomach the sight either. Or maybe she just didn't want her side piece seeing it while sipping coffee from my #OneDad mug. Didn't matter. I wasn't going back. Not really. What I was doing now was legal. Cold, clinical, permanent. The lawyer had the papers ready before the new year even hit. He slid the manila folder across the desk like it was a breakfast menu. "You sure you want to file first?" he asked. "You could wait. Let her take the hit." I didn't even blink. "I want her served before her coffee goes cold." He nodded and got to work. I handed him the evidence folder. He flipped through it like he'd seen 1,000 just like it. Because he had. "She won't fight this," he said. "Especially not with all this." "She might," I replied. "She's always been better at playing the victim than the truth." "Doesn't matter," he said, tapping the last page. "You've got documentation, timestamps, surveillance, even her interaction with your daughter's daycare. Judge will side with you. Full custody's on the table." That word hit me harder than I expected. Custody. Not because I didn't want it. I did. With everything I had. But because I'd always thought of myself as the background character in our parenting. The guy who worked, who kept the fridge full and the gas tank topped off. She was the main parent, the one who packed lunches and read bedtime stories while I crashed on the couch with my boots still on. But now, I was the only stable thing left in Emma's world. And I wasn't about to let that fall apart too. 3 days after filing, she was served. At work. I won't lie to you. I picked the timing. Lunchtime, Monday. Right when all her coworkers were gathering in the break room. When she'd be sitting there with her fake laughter and her almond milk latte, pretending her life was a Pinterest board. She called me 30 minutes later. 6 missed calls before I finally picked up. "You served me at work?" she hissed. "No," I said calmly. "The process server did. I was just handling things the adult way. You know, like you didn't do." She exploded, like I expected. Accused me of humiliation. Accused me of turning our daughter into a weapon. Accused me of being petty. "You're making this ugly," she said. "No," I said again. "You did that when you let 2 men into our life like it was an open house." Silence. Then came the crying, the pleading, the whole backpedal routine. I didn't mean for it to get serious. It just happened. I almost laughed. Like love was a pothole you trip into with your skirt hiked up. "I'll see you in mediation," I said. "And bring both boyfriends. Might as well let them hear it all too." I didn't tell Emma the full truth. Not yet. She was too young for that. But I started planting the seeds. "Mommy and Daddy are going to live in different houses," I told her one night at the apartment. "But I'll always be here. You'll always have your bed, your toys, your snacks with me." She looked at me with wide eyes. "Even the dinosaur gummies?" "Especially those." She nodded and hugged my leg again. Every time she did that, I knew I was doing the right thing. Her family tried to call me. A few of them, at least. Her sister sent a long message about how no one's perfect and how she's really hurting right now. I didn't respond. Her mother texted next. Something passive-aggressive about keeping the peace for the child's sake. I responded to that one. Peace was keeping my mouth shut while she played house with strangers. What I'm doing now. That's justice. I never heard from them again. The mediation date came fast. She showed up with a lawyer who looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. She didn't make eye contact with me the entire time. Just sat there flipping her hair, dabbing her eyes like she was auditioning for sympathy. But the mediator wasn't buying it. I had the photos, the timeline, the daycare footage, and the judge's report had a line that made her lawyer visibly wince. "The petitioner has demonstrated consistent, stable, and appropriate parental care in the absence of the respondent, whose conduct raises concerns about judgment and environment." I didn't smile, but I wanted to. Walking out of that courtroom with joint custody on paper and full custody as the likely outcome in review was the first time I felt light in months. She didn't say a word when we passed each other outside, but I did. Just leaned in and said, "Tell your boyfriends the game's over." I didn't look back. Didn't need to. Because this chapter was closing, and I was the one holding the pen. There's a weird kind of quiet after a courtroom battle. Not relief, not peace, just space. Like the air got thicker, heavier, but somehow easier to breathe because the waiting's done. The paperwork was filed. Custody split pending a final review, but Emma was with me 5 days a week starting next month. Weekends would rotate, supervised visits if needed. I'd already lined up a family counselor to get ahead of the judge's suggestions. I wasn't leaving anything to chance. And her? Well, she stopped texting. Stopped calling too. Guess it finally sank in that I wasn't bluffing. That I wasn't the soft guy who just kept the lights on and stayed quiet while she did whatever she pleased. I was the guy who woke up. And once I did, she didn't know what to do with me. I changed my number. Kept a line open for her to reach me only for Emma's sake. But everything else? Cut. I switched banks. Closed our joint account. Moved out of the apartment and into a small house I bought with a loan I'd been sitting on for years. It wasn't fancy, but it had a yard Emma could run around in a room I was already painting lavender because she said it made her feel safe. That word, it hit different. Safe. I used to think stability was the same thing. A paycheck, a roof, a routine. Turns out, kids know better. They don't need a big house. They need someone who doesn't disappear. Someone who shows up. Every time. The first time I picked Emma up from her new visitation drop-off spot, she ran into my arms like nothing had changed. But I could tell something had. She hugged me a little tighter, looked at me a little longer, like she was trying to figure out if I was real, if this was still her world. We got ice cream and sat on a park bench. I let her talk about whatever she wanted at school, cartoons, her new obsession with worms. I didn't bring up her mom. Didn't have to. Kids are smart. They see things we think we're hiding. You mad at mommy? She asked, halfway through her vanilla swirl. I looked at her. Why do you think that? She shrugged. She cries a lot now. And she told me you don't love her anymore. I took a breath. Chose every word. I don't love what she did, but I'll never stop caring about the people who matter. And you. I touched her nose. You matter the most. She nodded. Looked down. She has a new friend. He brought me a pink stuffed bunny. That burned more than I let on. Did you like him? He smelled like pickles and talked too loud. I chuckled. Well, maybe we'll just keep him in the pickle zone for now. She giggled. That was enough. Back at home, I framed a photo of the two of us, her on my shoulders, laughing, frosting on her nose from a birthday cupcake. I put it in the hallway where the wedding photo used to hang. That space? It didn't need her face anymore. It needed the truth. The new truth. Me and Emma. Still here. Still standing. That weekend, her sister emailed me. Didn't call, emailed. Said she'd seen the drive. Said she was sorry for not seeing it sooner. Asked if she could stay in Emma's life. I thought about it for a while. Reread it twice. Then replied. Me. If you're here for Emma, you're welcome. But don't try to fix your sister through my kid. That ship sailed. Respect the boundaries or don't come at all. She replied quick. Her. Understood. And thank you. You're a better man than most. Maybe. Maybe not. But I wasn't her man anymore. The younger guy, the gym rat, he reached out too. Through a burner number. Said he didn't know she was married. Said he was used and manipulated. Tough luck, buddy. I didn't reply. You lie down with snakes, you don't get to complain when you get bit. The last time I saw her was brief. Emma had forgotten her favorite stuffed animal, Mr. Giraffe. It was her sleep buddy, non-negotiable. So I swung by, texted her I was coming, and walked up to the porch where she waited with the toy in hand. She looked tired. Older. That kind of tired that makeup can't fix. Thanks, I said, taking it. She misses you, she said quietly. I'm not the one who left. I didn't leave, she whispered, but it wasn't convincing. I gave her a look, just one, and she dropped her eyes. Like she was finally seeing what she'd done. Was it worth it? I asked. She didn't answer. That was all I needed. I turned around and left. No fight. No closure speech. Just the sound of my boots on the porchwood, walking away from the woman who taught me exactly what betrayal looked like and what surviving it felt like. That night, Emma tucked Mr. Giraffe under her arm, looked up at me and said, Daddy? Yeah, baby. You're my safe. Not, you make me feel safe. Not, I feel okay with you. You're my safe. That was it. That was all I ever needed to hear. Winter melted into spring, and with it, the final traces of the life I used to live. Divorce was finalized March 3rd, 10:27 a.m. I remember the time because I looked at my watch when the judge signed the final page. Not out of drama, just because I wanted to mark it. That was the moment I stopped being her husband and officially became Emma's father, full-time, full rights, full heart. The rest? She could have it. The house, the memories, the stories she'd spin to her friends about how I abandoned her emotionally or how things just unraveled. Let her rewrite the script all she wanted. I wasn't in her movie anymore, and I sure as hell wasn't reading her lines. Emma adjusted fast. Kids do that when they have someone solid to stand on. Our little house became our little world. I kept the routines tight, homework, brushing teeth, bedtime stories. But I also let her run wild sometimes. We built pillow forts in the living room, made pancakes at midnight, danced barefoot to old country songs I grew up on. We were building something new, something better. She still saw her mother. The court had given her weekends. Sometimes she came back quiet. Not scared, not sad. Just quiet. Like she was trying to figure out which version of home felt real. I didn't push. I just waited. One night after I put her to bed, she came out, holding her stuffed giraffe by the neck. Daddy? Yeah. Why doesn't Mommy smile the same way? I set down my book. What do you mean? She used to smile big. Like this. She beamed, showing all her little teeth. Now she does the small smile. Like it stuck. I nodded slowly. Maybe because sometimes, when you make a mess, it takes a while to clean it up. Emma thought about that. Did you make a mess? Yeah, I said. I let too much slide. That was my mess. But I cleaned it. She leaned against my arm. You did good. That right there, that was my vindication. Not the court ruling. Not the flash drive. Not the silence I left her in. That. I changed jobs in April. Left the plant behind. It was good money, steady work, but it had eaten up too many years, too many weekends, too many dinners I never sat down for. I took a position at a local fabrication shop. Less hours, less stress. The pay drop didn't matter. I'd already downsized my life into something that actually fit. More time with Emma. More mornings where I packed her lunch and walked her to school instead of waving from a truck window. More nights where I was the one she ran to after a bad dream. Being present? That's the richest I'd ever felt. In May, she asked if we could plant a garden. I said sure, even though I had no clue what I was doing. We dug up a corner of the yard, dumped in soil like we were building a castle. She wanted carrots. I pushed for tomatoes. We settled on strawberries and snap peas. Every evening after dinner, we watered it. Checked the leaves. Talked to the dirt like it was listening. One night, I caught her whispering. What are you saying? I asked. I told the strawberries not to be scared, she said. Because they have us now. I didn't reply. I just swallowed hard and looked at the ground. Because yeah, she was right. Word got around town. Folks knew. Small towns don't forget drama that tastes this good. Some whispered. Some didn't look me in the eye anymore. Her friends crossed streets or unfollowed me online. Whatever. Let him. One of the guys, Mr. Gym membership, left town. I heard he tried to stick around, but folks didn't take kindly to his role in the story. The other one? The business casual guy? Still out there. Still slick. Still smug. I saw him once at a gas station, filling up while talking on a Bluetooth like he was solving world peace. He saw me. Smiled. I didn't smile back. Just walked over, slow. He tensed. Don't worry, I said. Not here for a fight. Just wanted to say something. He nodded warily. I leaned in. You got a piece of her, sure, I said. But I got the part you'll never touch, my daughter. And when she grows up and asks what happened, I won't have to lie. He opened his mouth like he was going to speak, but I turned and walked off before he could. That was it. That was the last door I needed to close. A few weeks later, Emma's strawberries broke the dirt. Little green shoots pushing toward the sun, like they knew they'd made it through the worst. She jumped up and down in her pink rubber boots. They did it. Yeah, I said. They did. She looked up at me, grinning. We did, too, huh? I smiled for real this time. Deep. Honest. We sure did, baby. And just like that, I realized something. This wasn't the aftermath anymore. This was the beginning. The last time I really saw her, was on a Wednesday. School pickup. Emma had a dentist appointment and couldn't go to aftercare, so we arranged a handoff. Neutral ground. Parking lot of the clinic. Midday sun, birds chirping, the whole world pretending like things were just fine. She pulled in late, as usual, music too loud. Phone to her ear like nothing mattered, but whatever conversation she was halfway through. When she spotted me, she hung up. Took a second. Put on that old smile. The one that used to work. It didn't anymore. She walked Emma over, holding her hand loosely, almost like she didn't know what to do with her own kid. Hey, she said, like the past year hadn't happened. Thanks again for being flexible. I nodded, took Emma's backpack and helped her into the truck. No problem. There was a pause. One of those long, awkward silences that people try to fill with polite noise. But I didn't give her the chance. She leaned in, voice low. She's doing really well. With you, I mean. I can tell. I didn't answer right away. Just looked at her. She was smaller now. Not in size, but in presence. The weight she used to carry, the energy she used to command, it was gone. Replaced with something tired. Dim. Yeah, I said finally. She's growing into something solid. She nodded, biting the inside of her cheek. You, uh, you seeing anyone? I raised an eyebrow. Nope. She tried to smile again. Sometimes I think about what it was. You know? Before. I stayed quiet. There wasn't anything left to say. Then she said it. I miss what we had. I studied her for a second. Let the words sit there in the open air. Let her hear them. You don't miss me, I said. You miss the version of your life where I kept everything running while you played pretend. That shut her up. I was a good husband, I added, voice even. Maybe too good. And you took it for granted. So now I'm being a great father. And that's the part you don't get to ruin. She blinked, eyes glassy. I didn't mean to ruin everything, she whispered. You didn't ruin everything, I said, glancing toward the truck where Emma was buckled in, munching on apple slices. Just your part of it. I turned, climbed into the driver's seat, and didn't look back. 6 months later, Emma started second grade. New backpack, new light-up sneakers, same brave little heart. She held my hand all the way to the school gate. Can I walk in by myself today? She asked. I paused. You sure? She nodded. I'm big now. I smiled. Let go of her hand. Watched her walk toward the doors with that little bounce in her step, like she was walking on clouds. Before she disappeared inside, she turned, waved, and yelled, Love you, Dad.